It seems that each smartphone has a key selling point, whether it be price, camera, battery life, or in this case, water resistance. When smartphone producers choose to focus on a single element of the overall experience, other corners can be consequently cut. The Sony Xperia M4 Aqua focuses on being waterproof, but how well does it perform overall? This is Bailey Stein with Android Authority, and this is my full review of the Sony Xperia M4 Aqua. The M4 Aqua's design is very similar to those of other Sony smartphones, and that shouldn't come as a surprise. Sony smartphone iterations are largely incremental when it comes to design, and the M4 Aqua is no exception. The two glass panels certainly look nice, although both are fingerprint magnets. The device's plastic frame is kind of disconcerting and to me feels out of place when combined with the glass construction. The mix of premium feeling glass and cheaper feeling plastic is unsettling and makes the phone feel awkward in the hand. The circular power button is positioned nicely, although the volume buttons and SIM door flap leave little room to rest your thumb on the side of the phone. The amount of ports, camera buttons, speaker grill, and separate SIM and microSD card flaps all placed on the frame is overwhelming. There's a lot going on for a single frame, and it's honestly kind of off-putting and takes away from the minimalism established with the glass panels. On the positive side of things, the phone is pretty thin and light at 7.3mm and 136 grams. The 2400 mAh battery is not user replaceable, and there is a notification LED to the left of the Sony branding on the front of the device. In addition to that, there's also a 5-megapixel front-facing camera. Of course, the M4 Aqua is waterproof with IP65 and IP68 certification. Sony says that the phone should not be underwater for more than 30 minutes, nor should it be under a depth of 1.5 meters. The physical camera button also enables underwater pictures, since you can't really use the touchscreen when it's exposed to water. As long as you follow the instructions, you can expose the phone to water without having to worry about damaging it. The 5-inch 720p display looks good, with great viewing angles. It is noticeably warm, however, and colors just aren't as vivid as they are on other devices in the same price category. Overall, the display is good, but not great. Day-to-day performance on the M4 Aqua was pretty good, and the 2GB of RAM was enough to run more than a couple of apps at once. The phone is powered by Qualcomm's mid-range octa-core 64-bit Snapdragon 615, with 4 cores clocked at 1.5 GHz and the other 4 cores clocked at 1 GHz. It's not as fast as flagship devices, but it's certainly more than usable. One area of concern is the device's heat output. It's not as bad as the Snapdragon 815, but the M4 Aqua gets very hot when doing simple tasks like using the camera or downloading apps. Luckily, the processor does slow down significantly before overheating, but it still indicates a problem that Qualcomm has kind of just swept under the rug. The Adreno 405 GPU handled gaming well, and I didn't run into any issues with the exception of a surprisingly warm phone. In addition to supporting cellular networks, the M4 Aqua also works with GPS, 802.11n Wi-Fi, DLNA, and Bluetooth 4.1. Carrier compatibility varies from each model, so be sure to check the frequency bands before purchasing. For example, my model only supports up to HSPA Plus on AT&T. Although I was hoping for front-facing speakers given the device's dual front grills, the M4 Aqua has side-firing audio. It turns out that the bottom grill is just a microphone, and the top grill is only used as an earpiece. The audio output on the M4 Aqua is okay, but the volume is on the quieter side and it just sounds tinty and distorted.
Foods, otherwise called partially hydrogenated oils, on labels. Trans fats are used by companies because they give food a longer shelf life, enhance texture, and stay solid at room temperature.
The 13-megapixel camera, which I'm assuming is a Sony sensor, took some nice looking images. It's a capable camera, but I did notice that some images lacked punchiness. The pictures were quite sharp and detailed, however. The camera app has a few modes, one being manual, which allows you to select the scene or adjust white balance. Sony does offer additional camera modes, which are available for download. Sony claims that the M4 Aqua's 2400 mAh battery will last 2 days, but that's not what I found in my testing. When I ran my daily usage test, the phone lasted from about 7 AM to about 10:30 PM, with just over 2.5 hours of screen on time. I kept the phone in standby for most of the day until in the evening when I started to watch YouTube videos and scroll through Twitter. There are a few power saving modes in the settings, which you'll likely end up using to extend the phone's battery life. The software on the Sony M4 Aqua is a slightly skinned version of Android 5.0 Lollipop. There are some great things about it, like the ability to customize the quick toggles, record a video of the screen, something that usually requires rooting, and a small apps menu. The UI for the small apps does feel a tad unpolished for some reason, but the functionality can definitely be useful. On the downside, the default launcher does have a few issues and the phone does ship with some bloatware. For example, the hamburger icon in the app drawer is poorly placed. It can sometimes get in the way when swiping right, which is incredibly annoying and frustrating. Another negative point is the amount of bloatware on the M4 Aqua. AA stocks, AVG protection, and news from social life are only a few of the many mostly useless pre-installed apps. Luckily, most of them can be uninstalled. The Sony M4 Aqua is available in black, white, or pink with 8 or 16 GB of storage. The 8GB model only has less than 1.5GB of usable storage out of the box, so you should really opt for the 16GB model if you plan on buying this phone. Although the phone isn't officially available within the US just yet, it can be purchased for around $350 from third-party resellers. For that price, the Sony Xperia M4 Aqua is a tough sell. While it does have a good display, capable camera, and water resistance, there's just too much about the M4 Aqua that prevents me from recommending it. The design is inconsistent, the processor has heating issues, and the battery life just isn't as good as Sony claims. And while those compromises may have been acceptable 2 years or even a year ago, the competition today is much bolder. With options like the Asus Zenfone 2 and Alcatel One Touch Idol 3, the M4 Aqua is not only mediocre at best, but also overpriced. Thank you for watching this video, and please make sure to give it a thumbs up below if you found it helpful or informative. Also, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content, and feel free to leave a comment below. Finally, be sure to visit the Android Authority website for additional coverage, as we are your source for all things Android.